Have you ever wondered how close the United States came to losing everything before it truly became a nation? Not during the Civil War. Not during the Great Depression. But in 1814, when the Capitol itself went up in flames and the future of the country hung by a thread. In August of that year, the United States was still young, barely 3 decades removed from the Revolution. The War of 1812 was raging, a conflict often overshadowed by larger wars in American memory. Yet for the people living through it, this was deeply personal. British forces, the same empire America had fought to break away from, were marching toward Washington, D.C., and this time, they were not negotiating. President James Madison faced a reality no modern president has ever experienced. A foreign army was advancing on the Capitol. The American military was unprepared and outnumbered. Government officials scrambled. Citizens fled. The sense of uncertainty was overwhelming. Imagine living in a city that represents your nation's identity, only to hear that it may not survive the week. On August 24, 1814, British troops entered Washington. They set fire to multiple government buildings, including the Capitol and the President's house, what we now call the White House. The image of smoke rising over the young Capitol was more than symbolic. It felt like the American experiment itself was being erased. Dolley Madison, the First Lady, became an unexpected hero in that moment. Before fleeing, she ensured that a famous portrait of George Washington was removed and preserved. That decision was not just about saving a painting, it was about protecting a symbol of American independence and identity. In a time of chaos, she understood the power of history and what it meant for the future. If you enjoyed this curiosity, leave a like so I can bring you more facts like this. The burning of Washington could have broken national morale permanently. Many critics had already questioned whether the United States was strong enough to stand on its own against global powers. Seeing the Capitol in ruins seemed to confirm their worst fears. Newspapers spread the news quickly. Across the country, people wondered if the nation would survive intact. But here is where the story shifts. The British did not stay. After setting the fires, a severe storm struck the city. Some historians even describe it as a hurricane. The storm extinguished many of the fires and caused additional damage, forcing British troops to withdraw sooner than expected. Nature itself seemed to intervene at a critical moment. More importantly, the attack did not destroy the American spirit. Instead of surrendering to despair, leaders doubled down on rebuilding. The Capitol was reconstructed. The President's house was repaired and painted white, which contributed to the nickname we still use today. The government returned. The city rose again. This moment marked a turning point in how Americans saw themselves. Until then, the nation had often felt fragile, almost temporary. After surviving the burning of Washington, something changed. There was a growing belief that even if buildings could fall, the ideals behind them could not. The War of 1812 eventually ended in 1815 with the Treaty of Ghent. No major territory changed hands. In some ways, it was a military stalemate. But psychologically, it was a defining chapter. The United States had faced one of the most powerful empires in the world again, and remained standing. Comment which facts surprised you the most. What makes this story so powerful is not just the destruction, but the resilience. Think about it. The White House has stood through world wars, economic crises, and political upheaval. Yet one of its earliest tests came when it was physically reduced to charred walls. Instead of abandoning the Capitol or relocating permanently, the country chose to rebuild on the same ground. There is something deeply American about that decision. Rebuilding instead of retreating. Preserving symbols even when circumstances seem hopeless. Protecting identity in the middle of uncertainty. And here is an interesting detail that many people do not realize. After the attack, there were serious conversations about whether the Capitol should be moved to a safer location. Some believed Washington was too vulnerable. Others argued that abandoning it would signal weakness. Ultimately, the choice to stay reinforced the idea that the nation would not be intimidated into relocating its center of power. That decision shaped the future of the United States in ways we rarely think about. Washington, D.C. grew into one of the most recognized capitals in the world. The very buildings that were once burned became global symbols of democracy and governance. Tourists walk through halls today that were once blackened by fire. History often feels distant, like a series of dates and names. But when you slow down and imagine the fear of that moment, the smoke in the air, the uncertainty about tomorrow, it becomes human. It becomes relatable. The leaders and citizens of 1814 did not know how the story would end. They only knew they had to keep moving forward. That is the part that still resonates today. Every generation faces moments when the future seems unclear. Economic uncertainty, political division, global challenges. Yet the burning of Washington reminds us that even when institutions are shaken, the principles behind them can endure. Survival is not always about avoiding crisis. Sometimes it is about how you respond to it. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The War of 1812 is sometimes called the Forgotten War. It does not have the scale of the Civil War or the global impact of World War II. But in that forgotten chapter lies one of the most dramatic scenes in American history, a capital city in flames. A president forced to flee. A first lady saving a portrait that symbolized the nation's founding, and a people choosing to rebuild instead of give up. When we look at the White House today, clean and bright, it is easy to forget that it once stood scorched and abandoned. Yet maybe that history is exactly what gives it meaning. It is not just a building of power. It is a reminder that even the strongest symbols can be tested and still endure. So the next time you see an image of Washington, D.C., remember that there was a day when its future was uncertain. A day when the United States almost lost more than buildings. And remember that the survival of the nation was not guaranteed. It was earned through resilience, determination, and a refusal to let a single devastating moment define the entire story. That is the deeper takeaway. Nations, like people, are not defined by the crises they face, but by how they rebuild afterward.